Hey everybody, it's me, your host, Calvin Logan, with the Logan Power Show. Well, I'm about to show to you an exclusive debate for North Charleston's mayor for 2023 candidacy going on right now. I hope this video blesses your life. Throughout 2023, the Logan Power Show will be on firsthand to show you exclusive footage of what's going on in the city of North Charleston, South Carolina. Be tuned in for the mayor's debate each month live here at the Logan Power Show. Hey family, it's the place you want to be. Visit today, www.theloganpowershow.us. It's me, your host, with Calvin Lo, the Logan Power Show, nationwide, worldwide. Love you.
It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show.
And now the host, Calvin Logan.
I thank you all for coming to our informational type of meeting in regards that we are introducing candidates who are running for mayor of North Charleston, South Carolina. We have our incumbent, Mr. Mayor Kisami, unfortunately cannot make it due to a city council meeting. But the other candidates that were supposed to come, unfortunately, cannot make it at this time. But we do have with us Mr. Floyd Dotter here and Mr. John Singletary. What this is about is a situation to where we are going to let them share their heart, and then you get to ask those questions of what impacts you. For me, my name is Calvin Logan. I'm here to moderate. For me, I have my own television show, radio called the Logan Power Show. I take no part of favoritism. My job is just to speak the facts and to inform people what's really going on. And you make the decision in November of who you feel is the right person to benefit you. This is not about color or race. It's about right and wrong. It's about who you feel that in your heart is going to give you what you need. Because you're the one, you're the voter, you're the taxpayer, and whoever takes this seat impacts you in a whole plethora of different ways that the next 4 years can either increase your salaries, decrease it, can affect the taxes that you pay. It impacts on who you put in charge of law enforcement. It impacts, for instance, also who you decide to say, for instance, helping your community. I know a lot of things that, people make promises. And I've always said this: if someone makes a promise to you, you hold them to that promise. So whatever people say here, I take it like it's truth. This is your truth. Let's hold it our truth. We will allow each candidate, again, to share their time. There's no type of, we don't want nothing like no bad mouthing each other. Just speaking the facts. This is who I am. This is where I come from. So without further ado, we'll just go by last name first. Mr. Dotter, introduce yourself to the people, your name, and a little background about yourself.
Floyd Dotter. I've lived in North Charleston since 1974. I was a teenager when I came to Charleston. The reason I'm running for mayor is the same reason I ran last time. It's the same reason I felt like I had to run last time. I had been advised to challenge what was going on in the city of North Charleston. And I come to this race as a problem solver. This problem isn't about me. I'm in a position that I could walk away from North Charleston, but I choose to stay in North Charleston. I'm going to stay in North Charleston, and in the meantime, I can't just shut my door and ignore some of the things that I've noticed for years in North Charleston. So as a problem solver, I really struggle with how to fix the problems that we have right now in North Charleston. I don't believe that I have the answers. I'm working on some answers. I would say that the biggest problem we have is the field that we're playing on, the foundation that the building's built on. The city of North Charleston's foundation, the city has been built upon corruption. And they set up the rules to continue to build the city on corruption. We have to start over. In my opinion, we have to start over. We have to give people in this neighborhood right here hope that they can be involved and have fruit from their labors or from their involvement. There's a lot of people in a lot of places feel like it's all a waste of time. I've heard them say things like, he's got a system, he's got a machine. Well, he in fact does. It's not based on the foundation that it's been laid by communities like we're standing in. It's based upon a foundation that was laid by other people who had designs on how to line their own pockets. So again, I come here as a problem solver. I remain here as a problem solver. And I'll be here tomorrow as a problem solver. And thank you for being here with us. Thank you.
I thank you again, Mr. Daughter, for coming, and thank you for giving your soliloquy of what you feel that you're going to bring to the table. Our other candidate, Mr. John Singletary, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. My name is John Singletary. Grew up right here in North Charleston, and the reason why I'm running for North Charleston's mayor is because I believe that I can do a better job than the mayor that is there now for all citizens of North Charleston. When we take a look at North Charleston has one of the highest crime rates in the entire nation, the highest in the state. It is considered the crime capital of the state, and I believe that I can decrease crime and give a better quality of life and a safer and healthy neighborhood for all citizens of North Charleston. Affordable housing is scarce in North Charleston. One of my primary concerns is that we have additional affordable housing for people who are local, who have always been local, to be able to remain. Many areas are being gentrified in North Charleston. People are being simply run out of their communities. Where we happen to sit for this forum tonight is one of the areas called Union Heights. In addition to running people out through the gentrification, the voting base for Union Heights is decreased by 34%. If you decrease a man who is 6 foot tall by 34%, he's less than 4 feet. So it limits the opportunities that he would have. As a result, the Union Heights area has been limited in the opportunities that it would have to have a voice at City Hall. When we consider recreation, the present administration has put recreation in several areas of the city, but they have taken recreation away from many of the blighted areas in North Charleston. Jobs and contracts is always a concern because when we consider the per capita income, it allows in gentrified areas people to stay if they can increase their income. And the last thing is transparency. I think that we should have greater transparency at the city of North Charleston. Presently, there are many things that happen that people are unaware of, from the redistricting to the funding that is shelled out in communities. Oftentimes, the community that gets the least has been the community that the funding has come as a result of. For instance, the Weed and Seed program that is here. The Weed and Seed program that was here in North Charleston was as a direct result of one of the streets in this neighborhood. However, that street in this community received very little of the money. Most of it was diverted to other areas. And so those are the things that I plan on correcting here in North Charleston.
Just want to piggyback. I'm just going to ask them a couple questions. I'm going to allow them to give a time of a minute or so to answer that question. and then I'm allow anyone else after we ask our series of questions. If anyone in the audience has questions to ask our candidates, you be feel free to do so, and they'll be able to answer your question. Okay. First question. I'll start off with Mr. Daughter. You said you've been here since 1975, correct? 1974. Right now, our current mayor's been in office for 30 plus years. You said you've seen some things that are not, as you would say, the rules, to be following the rules. You've seen some things that have been not rules. So what makes you different? Because it seems, and we see all the time, since 2015 we've had the same mayor's race in the past 8 years. And in 2015 and 2019, we've had candidates come with strong backgrounds, diversified, but it seems like, for instance, not everyone is given their fair shake. As you said, it's a system that the current incumbent has that sort of stops you from getting over the hump. So how will you be able to sort of combat that is the biggest question, because you see that North Charleston is pretty much, 50% African American. You see that over that, but the voting is not there. And it seems that we have the same old repetitive, I'm going, whoever's on the docket all the time, I'm gonna go with that individual. So in my opinion, in my question to you, if you were given that seat, what would you say do different on day one? I know you can't change the world on day one, but what would you do different on day one?
Well, the most fascinating idea for North Charleston came from an individual in this room. And when he said it, it floored me, and I've been thinking about it ever since. My friend Larry said that the new name of North Charleston is New Charleston. We cannot solve the problems in these communities that need the problem solved the most by doing it the old way. As far as the election and the turnout for voters, the voters turn out. There's evidence that it doesn't matter what the vote count is, they will win. They can lose in votes, but they will win. That's how bad it is. I'm saying that boldly. One of the reasons that I had to become public with the things that I do and say is because a senator told me that if I don't go public, they will probably kill me. I'm not kidding. The last election, I had somebody inside an office tell me his boss left his office with $30,000 cash to go meet our mayor. Okay? That's hearsay for me. But years before that, I was allowed to watch personally a cash payout to the mayor. That's why I had to become public. That's why I have to run for mayor, because that puts me in a safer place. I was dealing with the police, believe it or not, I was dealing with armies of police in my yard because of some of the information that I was able to pull out of trash cans. I had a team of people dumpster diving. We got documents out of O'Quinn up in Columbia. We got documents out of his dumpster where Keith Summey is saying one thing to the public, which is you, and doing something absolutely opposite behind the scenes. Had the document. And once they found out who was coming up with the documents, that's when I had to go public. I went to city council. We're having a city council meeting tonight. I went to city council with the letter and challenged the person to say, which time are you telling the truth and which time are you lying? I did that. And this is why I got to keep running for mayor. It's really to keep me safe. As far as I'm concerned, we need a different mayor, but we don't need a divisionist. We have too much division in this country. I know this country was founded in division, but we remain in division. It's one thing when you're talking about a country, but whenever you're talking about a city, a small city, why are we so divided? That's how we conquer. We divide. You know, Abraham Lincoln was quoting the Bible whenever he said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And this is the problem in North Charleston. The black community has been divided. They know what they're doing. They not only built the playing field to their advantage, they don't mind cheating. When you talk about somebody giving $30,000 to a mayor, that all he is a landlord for a lot of property in the city of North Charleston, where does that kind of cash come from, and why is it so easily given up whenever the boss man is up against the ropes? We have to start over, and we're going to do it by electing somebody that's going to start over. We're going to do somebody that's going to have a forensic audit and put some people in jail for some of the things they've been doing for years. I don't know about you, but I'm just tired of every time I turn around, somebody's naming something after somebody to get their support, naming something after themselves to float their ego and to help their machine, if you will, their invincibility. This political system is not invincible. This political system can be defeated, but we have to get away from the division. And even the people will show up, and I could study the names here, but some of the people he's talking about running serves for division. When a community is divided, they will be conquered. When the city of North Charleston is divided, they will be conquered over and over again. And what really has to end is the division. You know, the black community, people like me, we need to get behind one candidate instead of having one candidate on his own with all the other votes divided among 6. You know, speaking right now, we need to decide who the candidate's going to be before the election comes around. Remove the confusion. Why did I run for mayor last time? There's already been confusion. I wanted to bring confusion to the white world. You know, that's what I wanted to do, because they're unified. You know, and I don't think like them. You know, I love my neighbor. Hopefully I'll love him more than I love myself. I could go on and on with this, you know.
Yes, sir. Well, we definitely appreciate you giving your point. Without further ado, Mr. John Singletary, what would you do on day one?
On day one, I think that it's imperative that a forensic audit be done. And the reason is because if you start off a new administration, you have to start off on a level footing. And when I say level footing, transparency and accountability has always been an issue in North Charleston, as has been stated. Oftentimes we find that through the transparency reports, the spending reports, if you would like, to go on North Charleston's website and take a look, you will see that the transparency spending reports reflects more of the actual situation and not the propaganda that's been put in the paper. And so we start with a forensic audit on day one. That allows me to have a clean slate that is fair. It allows the public to know what's going on and to hold those who have not been doing the right thing accountable with the money. As far as the dynasty that you spoke of, it's a fake dynasty. And I say it's a fake dynasty because in North Charleston, as you stated, it's about 50% black, 38% Caucasian, 12% Hispanic and Asian. But in 2009, there were 4,000 whites voting, about 2,000 African Americans. The other races combined were less than 200 votes. In 2011, it was primarily the same thing, about 4,000 whites, 2,000 African Americans. In 2015, things changed. It was still about 4,000 whites voting. However, there was 5,000 blacks voting. African Americans outvoted all races combined. In 2019, still a little over 4,000 whites voting, 8,000 African Americans voting, 12,000 people total. So the voter participation for the city over the last two elections have doubled. And in doubling, the pendulum has swung the other way. And so what that says is that the dynasty has been toppled. That dynasty that used to exist does not exist anymore. And of course, as a result of that, we see several other people getting in the race. Some for the right reasons, some for the wrong. Some because with that dynasty being toppled, now, as was said earlier, there needs to be a divide in order to conquer. But my candidacy is about a better quality of life for each and every citizen in North Charleston. No matter what your race, I think that there should be a level playing field, as was said before, and every citizen who believes that they would like to live in North Charleston, desires an opportunity, should be given an opportunity to have a better quality of life, and that's what my candidacy is about.
Gotcha. Still focus on yourself, because we want to switch up on the questions. We know that there's a divide when it comes to law enforcement and the people. People don't really trust law enforcement. You've seen the hope and coming together is not the same across the nation. Now we do have Chief Burgess has said he's had an open door policy. We've seen that he's talked about being a beacon for the community and us working together hand in hand. If you are elected mayor, how would you bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community and having it to where we help each other out? And I mean by like policing our own means if somebody stole a neighbor's chair or their couch, that we look out and we say, hey, you know, let's let our people know that, hey, we're not trying to, the snitching thing is not the thing, but we want to be able to look out for each other. We are our neighborhood watch, and the police got our back. Or when the police see something, the reaction is we're not trying to take a race card to it. It's a right and wrong thing. If we see something that people butting heads like a bullhorn, de-escalation is our first option. Then the second at the de-escalation is let's figure out who needs to be detained and who does not need to be detained, and how we can have the dialogue to bring peace. So if you're given the opportunity as being mayor, how would you bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community?
Well, I think that's imperative that if you are serious about bridging the gap, and my administration will, we would enact community policing in its truest sense. Right now, community policing is enacted by getting federal funds in order to go out in large numbers on teams such as speed teams, as here in North Charleston, and crack people over the head, lock them up. That does not set the foundation for communities working together. What you would have to do is you would have to not only put police in those areas, but they have to establish a relationship with the public. And there are many ways to do that. In addition to the police in the area, for instance, with North Charleston, we've got a $37 million police budget now, approaching $40 million. The largest, single largest budget for a department in the city. And out of that budget, about 1/5 of it in a city where African Americans are 50% of the city, 1/5 of it happens to be African Americans. We know from statistics that in order to get crime down, you have to put and infuse funding, jobs, contracts in a community. And so the chronic joblessness over an extended period of time causes or correlates with high crime. So the city has to concentrate funding that it can from the police department as well as from the city, federal, as well as local businesses into jobs for the people in those communities. What that does is it not only brings certain types of crimes down, but it will also help in terms of bringing the crime index down. As I stated earlier, we've got the highest crime index, one of the highest in the entire nation, of any city, of any size, 62 per 1,000. And so we have to concentrate on making sure that the community policing is done in its truest sense by making sure that the citizens trust the police and the police trust the citizens. And the only way to do that is for us to infuse some funding into that community.
Got it. Mr. Daughter, same question, sir.
Well, I may not answer the question, and I'm not going to try to restate the question. The word trust is key here. The way you build trust is through relationship, and there are police that I trust. We have long-term relationship. We have reason to trust each other. A lot of young police come here, idealistic, and they behave in a very worthy manner. It doesn't take very many bad actors to spoil the whole thing. The interaction in the community. It only takes one Slager to shoot somebody in the back and really ruin that. I think the biggest problem with trust, and I don't know about you, I don't trust a policeman that I don't know. If I don't know them, I default to distrusting, because I've seen what they do. And one of the biggest problems you have with policing is they don't police their own. They used to have an office called Internal Affairs. It was so ridiculous that they even changed the name of it. I don't even know what they call the name of Internal Affairs now. The job I had an Internal Affairs police officer tell me straight to my face that we cover for the cop. We find out what's wrong with the claimant, and we do everything we can to cover the cop. That was the specific purpose that he told me that they had Internal Affairs. Okay, so do you trust that? Do you trust that when a citizen has a legitimate complaint, suddenly they're treated as the criminal? They're the one that's investigated and maybe even set up? They might get pulled driving down the road. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in this city. So, you know, when you talk about an open door policy, I don't think that does anything. Whenever you allow officers to keep their job, even though they're tasing them in their own house and they had no reason to be there. We're talking about Slager. There was a way of doing business that created distrust. The same man that was violating people's constitutional rights actively was being promoted. Does that create trust? It doesn't create trust. So, accountability. I mean, so before you can even have a relationship, you have to show some accountability. Now, our country's been doing well with that, but I don't know that it's doing it properly. Does anybody in here believe that Slager's still in prison? I mean, he did a plea agreement to be in the federal system. I challenge anybody in this room to find out where he is. So they told the community he's been held accountable, but the fact of the matter is he got away with murder. I don't trust a system that allows somebody to murder somebody to make a plea deal. I have a real bone to pick with the solicitor that in some level organized that deal. You had one person hanging that jury, and it was probably somebody that was planted in that jury. They knew exactly what they were going to do. So somebody could get away with murder. It was clearly murder. The only thing it wasn't is premeditated. I don't think Slager went out that day to kill somebody, but he had already gotten away with that kind of activity. So, you know, relationship. I have an open door policy at my house, and every once in a while somebody will stop by. Just opening your door doesn't do it. You have to be active in the community. You have to be doing things to make you trustworthy. And I really think it does start with accountability. Instead of circling the wagons around a bad police officer, you should be rooting them out. Police officer that talks about can't wait till the first time he shoots somebody, he needs to be gone. And that is a story that came to me from the city of North Charleston. A police officer is bragging about, yeah, I can't wait to shoot his first person, and the supervisor didn't get him fired. What are you telling the officer? Just get away with it. That's all. I don't trust them. I've actually been pretty frightened getting pulled whenever I'd done nothing wrong. And anybody should. Don't get out of your car. You know.
I got it. Final question before we go to the audience. The biggest thing across the nation is food. We talk about, for instance, people having the abundance of having food. We've seen food have gone up. People have seen their eggs gone up. Eggs have rise to a high price. We've seen the ability for getting food at a reasonable price is not available. North Charleston, getting down further down Rivers Avenue, where the old VA hospital that was supposed to be there, that was a building that was rebought by North Charleston, and in that area there is no grocery store. Most people who live down further down, close to downtown, to where the people would get their food stamps in that area, it is hard to find a grocery store. If you don't have transportation, you're talking about what, 3, 4, 5 miles plus to get to a grocery store, or places around here that people will have. North Charleston, for instance, when it comes to things of growth, you see it by the outlet. You see it on that side of town. But people on the other side, like Singletary mentioned by the Union Heights, that side is like, I don't really see that being of a side of importance. So I'm just trying to figure out from yourself, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Dotter. We have a situation where grocery stores are not really prevalent to everybody in a sort of a close vicinity. Like if I live somewhere, I can go to a grocery store and be able to get grocery at a reasonable price. And that people in North Charleston, depending where you live, it goes by your zip code, not by the color of your skin. So if you were given the opportunity of being mayor, would you fix some of the scarcity when it comes to lack of grocery stores in underserved areas?
I could say absolutely I would fix that. It's not a hard problem. There is a grocery store over there, but you have to be in the club to buy from it. It's a really good grocery store, but it's for people who run restaurants. I can't go in there and buy anything. Unless somebody in here runs a restaurant, they're probably not going to get in there either. There's enough tax base in this city that if a commercial entity wasn't willing to come in with competitive pricing, this city could help fund it, to create incentives. They could create it. It'd be easily done. There's a generation coming up right now that would embrace the opportunity to be there for for the underserved community. You know, you've got to build a pathway for it. And this gets back to what I'm saying. The playing field has been set. It's been set to degrade people and to marginalize people instead of bring people along, to make them feel like part of the city. You know, the weed and seed situation. You know, you look at a federal program and say, wow, all we got to do is go beat some people in the head in this neighborhood and we can take all that money and give it to our neighborhood. That's exactly what happened. A bunch of people got beat in the head so totally different neighborhoods could reap the benefits of it. I can't trust a system like that. Fixing the food problem, I think it's super simple. Super simple. It could have been done a long time ago. The fact of the matter is, the people that's in control, the system that's been set up, it is designed to marginalize people. It's designed to divide people. It's designed to push people aside. Gentrification, if you will. If we can drive down the value of the properties, then we can go in and snatch them up and redevelop them. That's what's happening. It's happening right now. It's happening right back here. I just drove around in this neighborhood. I've been back in this neighborhood before. I see other young white people driving around. They're scoping it out. They're working it over. They're looking for that low-hanging fruit. And once enough of that low-hanging fruit's been picked, pretty soon this whole neighborhood could go white in a matter of a decade, real easy. And you know, that would be okay, but you know, where are people going to go? They don't care where they're going. They just want them gone. You know, I've said it before. This question came up in one of the mayor debates in the last election. You know, talking about gentrification. To be quite honest with you, if black people left North Charleston, I'd probably leave too. I mean, if I didn't want that, I'd go move to Mount Pleasant. I could do that easily. Some of those cookie cutter neighborhoods. I don't think food is a problem at all. I think the administration is the problem.
Ms. Singletary.
Well, when it comes to the food desert in North Charleston, the Navy Hospital deal ended with $1 million being given to the City of North Charleston's administration in order to assist with building a grocery store. We've had contractors to submit plans to the city to build a grocery store, and the plans were denied by the city's administration. The FDIC insured institution never received the $1 million. If you recall, in 15 and 19, the administration, the mayor himself, promised to have a grocery store in North Charleston's food desert if the city had to build it itself. He promised that. It has not happened. When I grew up in this area, I can remember my grandmother choosing the grocery store that she wanted for different things. Whether it was Piggly Wiggly, Red and White, Dorsch's, Winn-Dixie, Food Line, A&P. She had many choices, and many of them in walking distance, at least 4 of them within walking distance of where we live. And every neighborhood had that. When you're trying to gentrify an area, one of the things that you do is you make sure that there is no food in that area. Because if there's no food, now they have to travel in order to do that, which increases the cost when it comes to your sustenance. In the area that we're talking about, this area included, it's not an issue of whether or not the people can sustain a grocery store. Because previously, as I said, there were 5 and 6 in most of the neighborhoods. And they still have to go somewhere in order to purchase. In this neighborhood, as candidate Donna said, there's the food depot, but there also is a grocery store inside of the mixing that you can go and buy everything you do in a regular grocery store. But it's not available to those outside of that. And so, as an administration, my administration would make good on the guarantee that a grocery store is built in the area. We would approve plans by contractors that come in who want to build grocery stores, as well as we will give out the $1 million that was handed over to the city to be put in an FDIC insured institution. People in North Charleston, no matter where you live, you should have the right to be able to go out and get food, healthy food, out of a grocery store. Now, many will say, well, Walmart is there and available. Well, Walmart's not in all neighborhoods, but when you talk about quality of food, when you look at the list for America in terms of grocery stores and quality of food, Walmart is not near the top. And so you take a look at not only the fact that they should have access to food, but they should have access to healthy food. And whether the administration builds it itself or assists others with building it, that would be a primary concern. And under my administration, within the first year, those neighborhoods would have a grocery store.
Thank you. All right, without further ado, we want to allow people in the audience, if you have a question for either one of the candidates, can you please just raise your hand and please ask that question so that you can have your voice be heard. Anyone here? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Ellen Easter Small, and I have a big problem about the food in the North area. Now, we got the foreigners come, they got 5 corner stores over here people have to go shop at, which was I don't. But I asked Keith Sammy, the so-called mayor, before, the last time he was running, I said, you promised us a grocery store, but instead you gave us the place where people could come and shop. We don't even live in the neighborhood. And he just quit. His answer was, people don't shop, they shop online. Well, we definitely do need a grocery store. Save a Lot, I've been the first person in Save a Lot. Was a picture in the Chronicle back in the years. You know, a lot of people don't have transportation. But I have so many problems about North Charleston and hoping that the new mayor can solve it, which was housing. We got a program called Man and Owner that gets all the money. I think it's an undercover thing because there ain't no way Man and Owner supposed to be getting all this money. When I first met Man and Owner, they was helping people buy a house, fixing your house up. Now they're buying all the property. You know, they got everybody buying all the property coming. They're calling everybody who will buy their property. And I tell them I got grandkids, so I ain't selling my house. But we need people that really care about people and know the people. We got all these people running for mayor. Well, I feel that there's only one person that can help us who know us, and that's John. And I'm not prejudiced, but I know that he's smart enough to run the city because the crooked stuff was going on in North Charleston. We got a new building on Macmillan. I love the building, but it shouldn't have the name on there like it is because he ain't did nothing in North Charleston. But we need people not to vote for people because they like them. We need to vote for people who are going to help us and make a change in North Charleston because really, right about now, 100% change. We need people for us. They're trying to move all us out of North Charleston. But God knows there's a God. And those people are not going to buy up all the property. But if you was mayor, what would you do different besides what's going on? I feel that like the money is split a little bit now with other people like helping with the crime and stuff. But that's not good enough. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the mayor doesn't care about us in North Charleston as far as black people. He cares about all the new white people moving in the neighborhood. And God knows that's got to change. We need help like emergency. before we finish losing North Charleston. But what's your name?
Mr. Daughter, Floyd Daughter.
Daughter. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. The people that lived in these areas here, no, they don't wanna go nowhere. They didn't wanna go nowhere. But we didn't have nobody to help us when they first started talking about buying up all the property. City councilmen in this area, they don't work for us. I don't know who they work for, but they don't work for the people. So we definitely need change. We need somebody who's gonna get down, get dirty, and don't care about the color of people. Just let people stay in their homes.
You know, I'm sorry for taking over, but, you know, the plight is real. The answers to me are simple. They may actually be complex, but to me it's real simple. Just start treating people like you love them. You know, telling you people shop online, he's just blowing you off. He wasn't saying, hey, you know, since you've taken the time to talk to me, let's go take a look. Let's go talk to some of your neighbors. You know, there's different ways to approach problems, and basically telling somebody some off answer that's not an answer at all is not a way you solve problems. Where do you start with it? Whenever I say the problem is it's built on the wrong foundation, that really is the crux of it. We've got to reorganize the way this city is run. And my friend Larry in the back said, New Charleston? That's where I am. It's time for a new way of doing business. And part of it, when you say city council, I think we need a new city charter. We have unfortunately in South Carolina, we're limited to the way the city charter can be done. But there is another model under the state constitution. There would be a weak mayor and a strong council. I believe that a large council with the mayor's job is to organize the meetings, in my opinion. That's what leadership is. Leadership is getting people involved, not winner take all, divide and conquer and winner take all. I'm totally sick of that. We need a city council that every neighborhood will probably have, every precinct 2 members instead of having one here and one there, and with the big area. When you only have 12 city council people, it doesn't take a whole lot for a strong mayor to steamroll a city. But if you had a lot of city council people, take that retirement check, because some of our city council members treat that job as a retirement check. They don't work for you or me. They work for themselves. They're getting that check for being city council, and they rubber stamp everything that comes down the pike because they don't want to cross swords to do the right thing and lose that retirement check. We have to take the money away from it. Let people be city council members because they want to serve the community, not because they want to serve themselves. We have enough self-servants. They're not public servants, they're self-servants. And so, I'm going to go back to the same thing. We need a new playing field. I think as mayor, that the first thing I'm going to do is move for a new city charter. First thing I'm going to do is increase the number of city council people. And it's going to create a situation where more people are involved. Right now, if people feel like their vote doesn't count, it's because there's no connection between them and the person they're voting for. Whenever they're voting for somebody in their neighborhood, do you think you're going to have more involvement? I should think so, because those candidates in that neighborhood, that smaller area that they're trying to be a city council person for, they better go visit everybody, because somebody is. And you know, we need more involvement. We need young people involved. You know, how many young people do we have in this room? We had some young people in the back, but you know, I'm sure. You know, we need the young people to get engaged in this instead of engaged in, you know, getting out of here. I've seen this in some rural areas. I've talked to like an 80-year-old woman. She's sitting on some of the finest land in Ondaw. And she says her children are moving away. They're moving to Chicago and New York. She can't keep up with the property taxes. She's sitting on some of the most beautiful property in Charleston County, and White World's going to come and take it because her own people won't stay there. And so that kind of can happen in North Charleston. The city of North Charleston is a great city. There are great people in the city of North Charleston. When I go to Walmart, talking about Walmart, and I start interacting with people, they're very friendly people. They're more friendly here than they are James Island or anywhere else. You know, you have valid concerns. I think I could keep talking about it, but
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Another question. Who has another question? Yes, sir.
Question is for John. 526, the DOT is about to try to take 31 black communities for home identification. Hundreds of people have to find a place to live. My organization, Racial Justice Network, has filed a Title VI. You know, because you were involved in the Title VI. They are doing an investigation on all of those 31 neighborhoods that the DOT is trying to gentrify. So we hope that Title VI starts very soon. That will stop the funding of widening 526 in those black communities. When you get elected, what would you do to further stop that gentrification in the black community?
Well, the easiest thing to do is to simply not grant permits until they come to the table and make the project inclusive. With the DOT's process, out of the first $22 million, none of that actually made its way to the African American community. It's a $1 billion project. DOT has $2 billion, and if they can halve their budget, $1 billion bringing it to North Charleston, claiming that they need capacity for I-526 and I-26. When we take a look at downtown, the same guidelines are not used when it comes to capacity. In some areas, they're building less than 15 feet from the interstate, whereas here, they're claiming they need 75 feet clearance. And even here in North Charleston, they are allowing some new neighborhoods to crop up in between the interstate and one of those neighborhoods you're talking about. 31 neighborhoods being affected, every single one of them happen to be African American. And the new neighborhood, which will not be African American, sits in between the interstate and the older community. I'm glad someone stepped up and filed a Title VI in order to stop that project. As the mayor of North Charleston, the project simply would be stopped until they come to the table with the community and the community gets fair input. There's an underlying reason as to why DOT chose to come here. In order to find that, you have to go to what is the analysis for impediments to fair housing that was done by North Charleston, the county, and the city of Charleston. And it deals with whether or not this North Charleston area, the Charleston or the Charleston County area, can be continually gentrified in order to maintain control over the richest city in the state. The richest city in the state happens to be North Charleston. And so that was a wake-up call that went to DOT. In that study, they say that 30% of your income is what should be used in order to be able to purchase a house. So because of that, we would have, under my administration, a program that would allow you to use 30% of your income and to own your home if you're working full-time. The previous question talked about a program called Metanoia. Metanoia gets about 95% of all the CDBG funds that comes through. If you go and you go to the county's website and you look up Metanoia and the homes that they've now purchased over 80 homes in African American neighborhoods using funding that should have been given to them in order to purchase homes, which would add to the 25,000 people who would not be run out if your Title VI is successful. When we sat down with the South Carolina DOT director, Director Hall, each time we sat down with them, the conversation went extremely well, but yet the aftermath was that they came up with some way to try and circumvent the reason why we were at the table to start with, which is to bring fairness for the people in North Charleston. North Charleston has one of the highest eviction rates, or the highest eviction rate in the nation. No one higher per capita. And the reason why is because when DOT comes in and they displace people, there's a pool of funding that is available so that they can get their rent paid. However, if you've been evicted, you can't access that pool. And so now, rather than being able to get the almost 2 years of rent paid, you have to leave the city because you were evicted, so now you can't access that. And so this is the kind of diabolical things that are happening in North Charleston when it comes to the gentrification and how DOT is being an indirect player in that. So to answer your question directly, I would simply put a moratorium on permits before they move forward with the project until the local older community is protected.
One more question. Since you talked about Metanoia, Metanoia is building several houses in these communities, even in the community that we're sitting in right now. My organization is going to ask for complete investigation on Metanoia simply because the houses that they're building, they can't use taxpayers' money to build a house and sell it at market price. They can't do that. And the homes, the names are in people's names that, so they will be the sole owner of the home down the line. So I think that investigation needs to be done by the Justice Department, by the federal government. First of all, that block grant should have went to all the communities, especially the high crime communities, instead of going to one community for 10 years. So that smelled corruption right there. So my organization will be filing with the Justice Department to ask them to do a complete investigation on Metanoia.
Yes.
It's time for somebody to go to jail.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, my name is Isaac James. I like to piggyback on all that we heard
Ellen.
Mary about the desert for the stores. He was promised for the stores, he was promised a senior building at the Sterrett Hall, and we don't have a walking bank nowhere near. Yeah. So what y'all you think you can do? Walking bank, store, and the Sterrett Hall for the seniors.
And the homeless.
We was promised all this under this administration now.
Well, you know, last election, suddenly they're putting sidewalks in. I mean, when it comes right down to it, just before the next election, they'll get busy with some little feel-good project. Reminds me of the tradition of pork barrel, you know, let's put a barrel out there for the slaves to have a little bit of pork so they'll feel like we're good guys. You know, that's what we get just before an election. Just a little pork barrel set out there so people will feel good about it. The last thing, then over and over again, talking about the sidewalks. Well, for years prior to that, they were arresting kids for jaywalking in neighborhoods where there were no sidewalks. They'd had no place to walk but the street, but they could arrest the kids. Then they make a big deal about sidewalks like they're the big heroes. You can't be the bully and the hero. And that's what that's the game they play. So they'll make a promise to be the hero, but then they'll be a bully and not keep the promise. You know, bullies do that. They promise you things if you do what they want you to do. You know, I look at it as some sort of strange appeasement to buy votes. Let's just make a little promise for the people so they'll feel good about us, but tomorrow we'll just go ahead and go back to business as usual. I'm sorry that's happening. I get really angry about these things. Promise made should not be broken. That's the way I was raised. You know, even if it hurts me, try to keep my promises. It wouldn't even hurt them to keep their promise, would it? It wouldn't even hurt them, and they won't keep it. Well, I believe that even if it hurts them, they should keep their promise.
You're right. With the food desert, when we take a look at the promise that was made concerning the city building a grocery store in the area, it's long overdue. In terms of the recreation, you mentioned Sterrett Hall. Sterrett Hall was torn down, something was promised back, and it's now up off of aviation. We've got a $20 million project going on Park Circle. We've got a $27 million project going on Danny Jones.
Right.
$21 million project just finished up the Aquatic Center. 2 senior citizen homes, senior citizen centers, $5 million each. We've got over $100 million in projects that are going on, none of them in the area that has been blighted. And it's unfortunate that those are the areas that are bringing the money in, over $1 million from the weed and seed as a result of Echo Avenue, which is a couple streets from here. When it comes to the funding, recently there was a $1.2 million grant cut up into $100,000 grants. But what the city didn't tell you is that the city received $23 million as a result of the program dealing with COVID. So the people who got the $1.2 million got a crumb off of the larger portion that was given. And that's not all. They went back and got another $7 million and on and on. All in all, it's clearly close to $36 million that they received, but yet, to that blighted area, they're given 1.2. Those are the kinds of things that happen every single day, and you can literally go to the state website and see the funding that's been given as a result of that CARES Act.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I want to make a statement first if I can. We're not in a beggar's position. And that's how we're approaching this. Is that we've got to go to the city with our hands out asking them. We're the majority of the population. But what we've got to do is mobilize, organize. We've got to get behind one candidate, mobilize. We've got to approach this thing because we've come so close in the last election. But we cannot approach it as a beggars, and we have to now sit down with our hands out, begging the city, not negating anybody, Keith Sully or whoever. We've got to mobilize as a community right now tonight. How many people we have to do? We're the majority of the population. We've got to mobilize so we can start getting out there and bringing other voices in who are ready to vote behind a choice candidate, or whoever it may be, but not sit back and the issues we already know. We already know what's going on in the city. The issues have been going on the last 2 elections as to how the city is operating, not in our best advantage as a community. No grocery store, we should have a medical grocery store. The city subsidized Boeing to the tune of almost $800 million. A company that makes over $3.5 billion. They subsidized it. When you look at a lot of these stores and businesses that operate in the city of North Charleston, they're subsidized for profit. So they can subsidize them for profit. What is the issue of putting a grocery store? They don't intend on putting one. No problem. You don't have to put one. If we take over the city, we can put our own damn grocery store. That's what I'm talking about. We have got to mobilize. And it's great to sit down and talk about the issues. We're talking about stuff we've been on the last 2 elections. There's nothing new. If we're serious about putting in a candidate who's going to work for the community, but we need to seriously get together, we need to seriously start mobilizing, we need to bring all those other voices who want the same thing, the same thing, who are willing to come out and vote to put in a mayor who's going to work for us. Not just the mayor, but the council, because they don't do much to say. We've got to mobilize. It's great to have the discussion. I don't have any problems with that. But if we're serious about putting the mayor in, we've got to, outside of this, we've got to sit down as a group and start bringing in other voices and work together to mobilize. In order to put, I remember, I'm trying to think of a brother who won the mayor of Atlanta, Maurice Washington, years ago. Maurice first started off, took him up to Atlanta. Bill, he was the mayor of Atlanta, guy with the G.
Bill Campbell.
Bill Campbell. Bill Campbell said to him, he said, listen, young brother. He said, you want to win? He said, let me tell you about it. He said, 6 o'clock in the morning, I was at a red light. Any neighborhood I can, passing out my cars and asking them. I did that for 1 year solid. Bill Campbell won the election. If we are serious, this isn't our going to do. We just talk. We got to seriously come together. John, whoever, John, Floyd, whoever, has already got campaign headquarters. Let's start meeting and start mobilizing in order to get the vote out. If we really want to win the election. If we really want to win the election, that's what we're going to do. So my question is, are we willing to do that? The candidate, not to the candidates, to us. Are we really willing to do that? If so, then we need to set fine dates and when we want to bring, come together, not for discussion. We're going to come together to see how it is we mobilize for this election this time. Because we keep so close. I think some of you only won by how many, not in Dorchester County, in North Charleston, you won by how many votes?
Less than 100.
100 some votes. The guy only gets 6,000 votes every time. His voting has not moved. And so it's not what he's doing, it's what we're not doing.
All right.
I agree. I love what Larry said. Thank you for picking me, Larry, by the way. Larry said some things. I've known him for a while. That thing that I'm talking about, New Charleston, that's the genesis is Larry Singletary back there. That idea. This is a tough problem. when he says get together, that's a tough problem because division is the name of the game. Divide, winner take all. We're in a divide, winner take all city, and I want to be optimistic. I really do, but I don't put anything past them to stay in power, and it's going to take a lot of unity. And you know, I can take a moment and look at these names. Has he brought unity to the community? I don't know that I have either. I know where his nose is. I mean, this is attorney extraordinaire for Keith Summey. I know exactly where his nose is. You know, Marvin's good people. He's done a lot of good stuff at the State House. I think he should stay there. He needs to get seniority. He needs to be in place. Whenever we move to get a new constitution, we need people like him in place. I know he wants to see positive change, but he is where he's needed. Do we need to say anything more? I love John Singletary. Okay? My vision for the city of North Charleston isn't exactly what his is. But I'm going to be extremely happy whenever he gets elected. Just a matter of time. I actually believe he's already been elected. He's already been elected. Okay? Now, when I talk about $30,000 taken out of an office, going to Keith Summey, what does he need $30,000 the day of election for? Anybody want to guess? It's a bribes. He had to make sure he won. Cash is king when it comes to corruption. Okay? Now, I actually know about that. And I've actually seen with my own eyes that man take cash from people. I was allowed to do that. Sorry, Brandon, I can't really talk about you. I don't really know Brandon. Okay? But, I mean, that's not much of a closing statement, I know, but I will go back to this. We've got to stop being divided. Okay? I ran last time because I want to divide Keith Summey. I don't want to divide the community. Okay? I want to divide the person that everybody seems to think will never leave. He can't afford not to run. He knows that if John or I get in office, he knows that all that corruption will be exposed. He's been told to his face that's what we're going to do. To his face. Okay? And a lot of people wouldn't do that. But he's been told to his face what's going to happen. He cannot not run. And this is why we have this guy. They're trying their best to cover their behinds. They can't live forever. And their legacy is not going to live forever. The only legacy that's going to live forever for these guys is corruption.
Well, my closing statement is very short. No division. If we allow ourselves to continue to be divided, as was said, then it's a matter of packing our belongings and saying goodbye to a city that we all love. When it comes to action, my campaign office is 2118 Aberdeen, which is right off of Rivers Avenue across from Murray's Mortuary. And if there's anyone in this room who is serious about getting together, hitting the ground, doing whatever you can on the phones, Facebook, about taking the city and making a better quality of life for everyone here, then Team Singletary is the campaign that you need to be connected with. The challenger candidate daughter, I've known him for a long time. And I can truly say that he is the kind of opponent that when all is said and done, whether he wins or whether I win, we can work together to make a better city in North Charleston. And that's the way it should be when it comes to people who are running to make a city better. If you are genuinely concerned about the people in the city, then there should be no long-term animosity. It should be that the better man won on that date, and now we do whatever is necessary to make a better quality of life for everyone in the city.
Right.
Again, John Singletary, my campaign office is at 2118 Aberdeen, which is off of Rivers Avenue, right across from Murray's Mortuary. And if you are serious about getting North Charleston under control, under a new direction for better quality of life for all citizens, then join Team Singletary.
I'm ready.
It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show.